All right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to an exciting start to the day here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. I know we've got a lot of familiar faces in the crowd, but if you are new to us, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. We do about 50 live free monthly interactive broadcasts. You can check them all out on our YouTube channel. I guarantee you're going to absolutely adore this one. So if you want to check it out in 3 weeks or 3 years, you can absolutely come in and check it out again. Today, as I said, is part two, day two of our Epic Oceans Week extravaganza. We've got 20 programs from all around the world featuring some of the coolest scientists and explorers on planet Earth. This is in conjunction with our friends at the Explorers Club. Joe Grabowski, our founders of the board of the Explorers Club, they've been really huge in helping us find some of these amazing speakers, so a big shout out to them. And specifically today, I gotta say, don't tell the other programs, but this one in particular is really close to my heart. I have almost never had the chance to host a program live from the bottom of the ocean, but if there's a better way to start a day for an Oceans Week spectacular, I can't think of it. We are live today at the Jules Undersea Lodge for an amazing project to Dr. Joseph Dituri. His work has been featured on news outlets all around the world in the last little bit. He now holds the record for the longest person ever to live underwater. He's on day 98, I think we said, but it's going to be very soon. We're going to talk to him in a second all about that. If you want to check out the Project Neptune 100 quest, the site is below. I'll make sure all our registered classes have this link. But we're going to have the chance to hang out and learn a little bit about what it's like to live, work, and play on the seafloor, go for these epic dives, what Dr. Dituri might be missing, and more. We are going to have a really extended Q&A, so YouTubers, StreamYard classes, please keep those fingers on the keyboards and get me all those questions. We're going to have a really great time over the next 43 minutes. I'm also really pleased to say I'm the most energetic person I've ever run across, and Dr. Dituri gives me a run for my money. It's very rare to meet someone who suffers from an excess of personality like he does, but I'm really excited to hear his story from the bottom. Best dance moves of anyone in our countdown in history, by the way. So welcome in, and thank you so much for joining us today, man.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And this is exactly co-commitment with our goal to reach as many kids as possible.
Yeah. So tell us what you're doing here. Like, you've got the best view. I'm an aficionado of backdrops. Usually there's like some books and like a random cat that pops in the room, but you look like you're deep undersea and some really cool research base. What's going on?
I am exactly that. Hi, my name is Dr. Joe Dituri, and I am starting my 98th day living underwater, and I intend to be underwater for 100 days. So I have a PhD in biomedical engineering, and I also spent 28 years as a Navy diving and special operations officer. So I have a very unique qualification to live underwater. It's kind of sort of the culmination of my entire life's work, if you will. All of the years in the Navy, all of the physiology research sort of stuff, and my zest for life at the Explorers Club. So I am a fellow of the Explorers Club, and I'm also the chairman of the Florida chapter of the Explorers Club. So I am all about the next generation of explorers, and that is all of y'all. So we're down here for 3 specific reasons. Number one, like I said, I have a PhD in biomedical engineering. So what we're doing is we're doing physiologic research on the human body. We want to find out what happens when you leave it in an isolated, confined, extreme environment for a long period of time. Nobody's ever stayed this long. The world record was 73 days. It was not ever about the world record. It was about extending human duration and finding out the limits of human duration. So we did blood samples, urine samples, saliva samples, did electrocardiograms on my heart, electroencephalograms on my brain to see what the brain function was doing while it was underwater. We also did pulmonary function tests, also did a whole bunch of other like blood pressure and the like sort of tests like you would normally get at a doctor's office, right? And when you're leaving the person down there this long, we also wanted to do the psychological components. So before, during, and after, the entire time that I'm doing it and continuing after, I do 19 psychological and psychosocial tests because we want to find out all of the information about leaving somebody in this environment for a long period of time. Number 2 is exactly this goal right here, which is to reach out and talk to as many children as possible about science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and get you guys pumped up on science. Now, usually, look, I'm a scientist, right? So science is a little boring, and it's kind of about white lab coats and beakers and microscopes, and I'm already tired listening to it, right? It's crazy. So the unfortunate thing is, or the fortunate thing is, it's actually pretty cool. So you can do scientific research in an austere environment such as the ocean or space or in the mountains, there's alpinist sort of medicine and research that can be done all over the place. So what I want you to do is kind of change your paradigm shift. And let me just tell you something. For those of you that say that you're not in STEM, y'all were born with this in your hand. I don't want to hear it. You know this better than I do. This vexes the older population. And it's second nature. You have science at your fingertips. So you guys are a different breed of explorers, and you are the next generation of what's going to be great and help solve problems on this planet. Third and final goal, I get to speak to the greatest population of the smartest PhDs and MDs in underwater diving physiology, also marine science, and astronauts in the world. So I basically get to interview all the cool people in the world. They sit right here at this table, right here at this desk, and we start talking about preserving, protecting, and now rejuvenating the marine environment. So I talk to sponge experts that tell me about, hey, well, this particular drug is manifested or derived from a sponge from underwater, and it's a powerful antiviral. What else is in there? We talk about sharks and shark finning and what really happens when you take the apex predator out of that top portion that they're supposed to be in, and what happens to the underpopulations and how they go unchecked. Bad things. So it's not only learning about the ocean, it's not only learning how to preserve and to protect. I've recently been talking with coral experts that are talking about rejuvenating. So we grow coral on coral trees in the middle of the ocean, and then we take that coral, bring it out and transplant it onto the reef, and it repopulates. So it's not only about preserving and protecting, it's about rejuvenating our marine environment with the solid knowledge that between 60 and 70% of the world's oxygen comes from the world's oceans. We are going to go ahead and keep doing that. We're going to go ahead and keep stimulating the reefs because we need that as a society, as a race. The human race needs it because we need that oxygen. So with that, that is my spiel, and I would happy to take your questions.
Fantastic. Well, first and foremost, for our students that are really keen on coral, because I'm really glad you focused on that, we've got Sonia Rowley. She's joining us tomorrow. Tim Lamont's also another coral researcher. So if you want to check out his work on our YouTube channel to follow up on that, it's a great supplement to this presentation today. I'm going to start with a question of my own, and then we're going to head to Mr. Shaddis' class in Chalk River first. YouTubers, again, please feel free to chime in there. This lodge that you're in, how far under the water are you? How did you get there? Are you allowed to surface at all, or do you have to be under to sort of keep this 100 days going? What's the deal about the Jules Undersea Lodge?
Right. So the rules of the game are you go underwater, you stick your head underwater, and you may not take a breath of any air from the surface. So you have compressed air always. We are piping air down to this habitat, which is approximately 100 square feet of useful space. I mean, there's a little more than that, but 100 square foot of useful space. And we are breathing and living underwater for this period of time without ever ascending back to the surface. I am allowed to go diving. As a matter of fact, I love diving, so I have dove 100 at least times, once a day generally, sometimes twice a day. And there are days when I got sick that I just couldn't dive. So, but yeah, you are actually experiencing life under pressure. That's the difference between us and a submarine. Like a submarine, people will go in a submarine and it's an isolated, confined, extreme environment, but it has no pressure component to it. We are open to the pressure. We have a moon pool, which basically is a hole in the bottom of our submarine. Like if you have a submarine with a hole in the bottom of it, it's exactly the same thing because we're pressurizing the space to keep the water out. And that's basically what we're doing. And those are the rules. And I've been down here underwater 98 days so far. I'm starting my 98.
I'll ask one more before we go to our live class. Are you excited to go back to the surface, or are you like you're happy down there? You talked about psychological effects, and you seem like the most optimistic man in the world. And so I'm curious if you stay longer, or if you're going to be happy to go back at the 100th day.
No, well, I'm gonna answer your second question first. So let me just tell you, the optimism comes from the fact that I am, and kids, trust me, choose a career that excites you, that lights you on fire. And when you go to work, I'm literally paying to be here. I have to pay to be here to do my research, and I'm partially funded by Marine Resource and Developmental Foundation, but I literally paid to be here to do my research, and I'm not being paid. So if you find a job that makes you excited, that when you get up in the morning, you're like, you got a smile from ear to ear on your face. The time will fly by. The mission will be great. You will continue to be you will have this great smile and this great attitude. So that's the first thing. So what am I looking forward to? Getting out. How am I going to get out? Am I excited? Listen, I am a traumatic brain injury researcher. It's what I do. So what I want to do and what I'm excited to do is use what I've learned here and solidify the mechanism of actions for the rest of the world, not necessarily me. We know them at this point. So solidify them for the rest of the world so that a new group of medical providers and practitioners and even lay people can understand the effect of hyperbaric medicine and what it does for the body, and then apply it across a broad spectrum of things that are happening in our societies, like Crohn's, ulcerative colitis. It's an inflammatory disease. We can help that. Traumatic brain injury. As you guys know, I'm a 28-year Navy Special Operations Officer veteran. So many of my friends have traumatic brain injury, and I just want to help. So that's what I'm doing. I'm excited to get back to work, and really we're going to apply a bunch of the lessons learned and go right back to fixing brains.
Very, very cool. You highlighted a minute ago that a lot of people hear science and they view person in a lab coat looks stern at a desk. And on the contrary, in this series and just in general, the feeling that we get from scientists all around the world is they're thrilled to do what they do. They love the schooling that goes into it. They get to work with the coolest people doing the coolest things and wake up with a smile on their face every day. So whether it is science or some of our students, and I'm sure it is, or anything else, if it's art, if it's communications, if it's business, whatever, if you find that joy, you can be as happy as the two of us.
I don't care what you do. If you're the happiest garbage man in the world, go do that.
Amazing.
That is fine. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
Dr. Dituri, I don't want to talk anymore. I'm going to turn over to Mr. Shadid's class 678 in Chalk River, Ontario. Hey, guys.
So I'm wondering, are you able to just leave the thing you're in and go swimming around and then just come back?
What I think I heard you said, am I running around?
No. So are you able to leave, like you talked about the moon pool, you talked about some of the dives. Are you able to just leave that and just go for a swim anywhere you want?
Oh, 100%. I go for a dive every day, if not twice a day sometimes. And I'm out and I'm looking for the seahorse, which hang out on the pilings. I'm looking for my friend Fred, the lobster, who literally lays right down here. The interesting part is being in this sort of an environment, I actually got a point where I could see a live lobster molt. And I was literally sitting right here, and I saw my friend Fred, the lobster, sitting down here. And he starts undulating like this, which is not a normal characteristic move for a lobster. Okay. So I'm like, I wonder what's wrong with Fred. So I went down to the moon pool. I got my dive gear on. I swam out, and I'm looking. And I see Fred's body just laying there now. And I see this pink gelatinous gooey thing just skulking away. But then I came up to the body. I'm like, Fred, you okay? And then I realized Fred had just molted basically right in front of me. Who sees that in the wild? Nobody, right? You have to live in a place.
Yeah. What a special experience that is. I'm sure Fred was very pleased. Fred, are you okay, man? Oh, it's delightful. Ms. Raheem's class, Gambrills, Maryland. If we want to head to you guys, unmute your mic and you're good to go. Hey. Oh, come unmute. Unmute though first. There you are. Can we hear you now?
Hi, Dr. Dituri. Thank you. This is Patrick. He has a question for you.
So, when you're under more pressure, does that mean that your bones and muscles strengthen, kind of like when you lose it in space?
So interesting. The answer is my muscles and bones are in what we call compression. So I am in compression, having been at about 1.7 times the atmosphere that you guys are at on the surface and 1.7 times the atmosphere that they are in space. But when you're in space, you're in tension because you are literally free falling in the earth. When you are in space, you tend to lengthen. So the astronauts that I have spoken with right here in this particular seat have said to me, yeah, I got about 1.5 inches taller. And I said, that's interesting because I got about 0.5 inch shorter since I've been down here. So yes, we are in compression. Now, does that make your muscles more dense? So muscle growth is from use. And when you are underwater, when you are in a small, isolated, confined, extreme environment that is about 100 square feet, you don't have a lot of room to work out. But that's one of the things that we're doing. And this is very much akin to space travel, right? Because we are going to be in this isolated, confined, extreme environment for a period of 100 days, which is really only half the time that it's going to take us to get to Mars. So here we are. What I do is this kind of thing. I put on these cuffs, and then I'll use resistance band technology, and I will work out with just the resistance band technology. And that is the only exercising that I'm doing while I'm in a zero-G sort of environment, sort of analogous to space travel. And what I'm trying to do is show that you can build and at least maintain muscle during the time that I am in a slight zero-G environment when I go out and dive. So it's kind of a proof point so that we can get these things going for when we go to Mars. I mean, this is completely analogous for our trip to Mars, and that's going to be 200 days long. So we're going to have to start working out all that science before, I love Elon Musk and he's all about going to Mars, but we got a couple of questions that I need your help answering.
Very, very cool. And I think we can all agree we're going to start with the resistance bands too to get arms like Dr. Dituri, because you're doing a great job so far. Let's head to Kanata, Mr. Luan's class. If you guys want to unmute your mic, in fact, all our classes, unmute your mics. I promise we can't hear you until I bring you in. But Kanata, you guys are good to go. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I was wondering if, can we, what do you do down there? What kind of experiments do, you do down in, there?
So good question. So I'm doing electrocardiograms on my heart continually. Basically, I'm watching the QRS complex. So we're monitoring myself continually. We're also doing electroencephalograms on the brain, which shows you how fast the signal goes from here to here to here to here to here to here to here, figuring out the hot spots and figuring out what is actually happening. Are you slowing your mental processes? Are you increasing your mental processes? We're looking for something called coherence, how well you talk, and phase lag, how long it takes to talk. So what we see is a couple of things, like the attention or attentiveness seems to be focusing and increasing while we're down here in the pressure. And we're wondering what the pressure component has to do and how that works on the human brain. Stuff like that. We're also doing pulmonary function tests where I breathe in and I breathe into this big device. And what it does is it calculates how many square liters per whatever. And we're tracking that and trending that over time. Same thing with the blood, urine. There are over 200 tests that we're doing on blood, urine, and saliva continually. So we took it on the surface. We're continuing to take it for 3 times while I've been underwater so far. And then we're going to take it on the outside. And then we analyze that blood. And then we can draw conclusions. While you're underwater, so I'll give you a for instance. While I'm underwater so far, all of the inflammatory markers in my body, including like IgH1, things like that, interleukin-6, all of them have decreased by about half. Now, inflammation tends to be one of the things that the human body is just an automatic response. You've probably heard the term cytokine storm during COVID. You've probably heard that your cytokines are active or that you have lots of inflammation in your body. Well, I've cut that in half by using hyper, meaning more than, baric, meaning pressure. So I am in hyperbaric medicine right now, and I am demonstrating one of the mechanism of action of hyperbaric medicine. So that's one of the things that we came across so far and that we've learned. So that's a great question. Thank you.
A really great question. And a student with an AC/DC t-shirt in 2023. So way to go, guys. Yes. I'm going to head to Port aux Basques, Newfoundland. I'm in Cornerberg, Newfoundland. Every time we get a chance to have a class here, I am over the moon. So grade 6s, come on in and take us away. Hey.
How do you get your food?
Ooh.
I think you asked, how do I get my food?
Yes.
Perfect. Great question. And it's a very, very important question as far as I'm concerned, because I'm about 220 pounds. So I'm about 100 kilos, right? So I need a lot of food. I need to feed this beast, right? What happens is the mission director and the staff at Jules Undersea Lodge bring down about once every 2 or 3 days a box. And in that box, it's a pressurized, pressure-proof box that has a handle on it that can open up, and they bring food down from the surface. Now, because I'm at an increased partial pressure of oxygen, that is because I am at about 1.7 times the pressure that you are. So my air is more dense. So it feels like the partial pressure of oxygen is 36% while I'm down here. So that lowers the explosion point of everything. It lowers the fire threshold for everything. So we don't have open flames down here. We can't cook on a grill. There is no heating element down here. We have basically the warmest thing I have is a coffee maker. And I was like, listen, I cannot do this mission without coffee because science and coffee are like peas and carrots. They have to go together, in my opinion. So that's about the warmest thing that we have. We also have a microwave, but I have become quite the expert at taking a frozen piece of salmon, thawing it, and then dropping it in and making poached salmon with a little bit of, a little bit of garlic and salt, pepper, and right, a little bit of capers on top. So we're not savages here. We can eat, but that food is brought down from the surface regularly. We do not have the room here by any wild stretch of the imagination to store 100 days worth of food and 100 days worth of shelf stable food or refrigerated food. Now, extrapolate that to our mission to Mars. What are we going to do with a 200-day supply of food? And that's just to get there. It's a 200-day or a 2-year round trip to get there and back. Wait a minute, we need 2 years of food? And I got news here. We're not taking cows, right? It's not happening, right? So like we have to figure out what shelf-stable food looks like. And oh, by the way, I have another question. What are we going to drink? Like everybody's like, oh, yeah, we'll have plenty of water. Wait, where? Where are you going to get it from? You're going to take it out of the air? No, there's no air in space. So there's lots of questions that need to be answered before we get on that plane to go to Mars. I don't care how cool the plane is. We got to figure out what's going to happen to the human.
That's a delightful answer. And I will note on the coffee angle that every single researcher we have, no matter how extreme their conditions, swears by coffee. And chocolate seems to be the two that scientists really need to keep going in life. So I'm the only reason I'm this energetic is my 2 coffees this morning. We're going to go to Farmington, Missouri. Miss Dillon's class has joined us for like a gazillion programs this year. That's an exact figure. And so it's so delightful to have them live with us. If you guys want to unmute your mic, come on in. Hey, Farmington Summer School. Welcome in, guys.
Sorry. I was just wondering, what's the hardest day you've had? Like, just in general.
Oh, it's amazing that you asked that question because I thought it was one day early on in the mission when I cracked my tooth 12 days into my mission. But then about 3 or 4 days ago, I have been going through a sinus infection in my sinuses, and I have what's called alternobaric vertigo. So I have the pressure in this ear is this high, and the pressure in this ear is this high. So I have this, what they call the illusion of angular motion or vertigo. So I was very physically sick. Let's just leave it at sick, and it was very not pretty. And there were lots of spinning moments while I was trying to get the world to stop moving, and I was holding on for dear life to a trash can just to, But yeah, that was it was very difficult, but not once. And oh, by the way, while I was doing that on the floor right here, I still managed to crawl to this window and high five a kid in the window who swam down to say hello. And I high fived them. You know why? Because that's the mission. Anybody who sits in this chair, I don't care how sick you are, I don't care how tired you are, your mission is to incentivize kids to get into science, technology, engineering, and math. So your job is to high five the next Sylvia Earle right here in this window. And I hope that we've done that thus far, or that the next Sylvia Earle or Elon Musk or whoever, the next great explorer is going to come to that window and I get to high five them and they go, hey, I really enjoyed high fiving that person. Let me get just one little nickel back on that. Let me just tell you a small story. There is a reason why I don't have a PhD in marine science. And I don't have a PhD in marine science because my marine science teacher in college was a poo head. I'm trying to be nice here, right? But he was not a very nice person. He was not a very nice guy, and he yelled a lot. And I said, why would I ever want to join a career that has that person in it, right? Because it's all about doing what you love, finding a job that just excites you and lights your fire and turns you on and turns you up in the morning. And I didn't think that that was it for me. So I stumbled through another career and found something else that I loved, but I still have the love for the ocean. but that's the influence that the teacher has upon you. So even if you're sick, even if you're tired, even if you're having a bad day, teachers, you got to get out there. You have a duty and a responsibility to the kids to give them the best of you every single day. And I challenge all of you to do that. So I try to lead by example.
You think you're doing a great job, and students can head down for one more day to come high five you at the window if they want to. If you want to fly down to the Jules Undersea Lodge, check that out. But I will note there were subjects in school for me that I hated because the way they were taught, and it's only as an adult that I've gotten back to them and gone, wow, if this is conveyed in a different way, if you highlight the magic and wonder of it all, it can really captivate you. And that's not to say that everything's for everybody, but make sure that you give every subject a few opportunities to really give it the chance to entrance you. Live classes, I'm coming back to another round with you in a minute. We are going to go to YouTube for a few, and then I'll be back with Mr. Shadid's class first. Miss Colclo's class, they're in Gambrels as well. They want to know what I want to know too. How's your internet connection so good since you're underwater? What's going on? Who's your provider?
Okay, so rule number one, get an amazing mission director. Because we were about 5-6 days into this process, and he was like, you know what? I think we need to run a Cat5 cable just to have some really good internet. So he literally capped the end of a Cat5 cable, swam it down here, laid it across the bottom of the ocean, shielded it as much as he could, and then we came up here, we spliced it, we plugged it into the router. So we have a direct connection to the surface that is like we're better than anywhere else on this property. And this is basically a school of sorts. Marine Resources Developmental Foundation is ostensibly a way to get the kids to touch the ocean, but we have the best internet on campus. Totally.
Very, very cool. Way to go to the mission director if they're in the background there or wherever they might be. Bravo, bravo. Let's head to Mr. Kurt's class. Let's see, a bunch of great questions to them. What body of water are you in? You talked about going down, how far you are down. Where are you in the world for our students that might want to know?
So I am in Key Largo, and technically I am in the Atlantic Ocean, but realistically, if you go back into a canal in the back of a lagoon, that's exactly where I am, but it feeds and opens to the Atlantic Ocean. But, I don't know, I'm a couple of 100 yards, feet. I'm a little ways off the beach, if you will. So you don't have to go by boat. You can literally swim here. You could swim out to here, and people often do, and then they breath hold down, and they high-five me in this window right here. So I get to see kids all the time that are just snorkeling their way out here.
Super, super cool. One more from YouTube. Mr. Shadid, you're next. We're just getting so many great questions. I want to give all the classes the chance to chime in. Miss Brenda did his class. Everyone in Gambrels is in. We got the entire town of Gambrels here today, Dr. Dituri. Their students want to know who's the most well-known scientist you have worked with. They're looking for name dropping here. Like, blow our minds.
Oh, boy. All right. I'm going to go with an astronaut that came in here, Dr. Michael Gernhardt. So Dr. Michael Gernhardt was an astronaut. He's also a former diver. He was a commercial diver before he became an astronaut. And he was, incidentally, little small connection, I got my master's in astronautical engineering from Naval Postgraduate School. He was my teacher at Naval Postgraduate School. So when he came in, he's like, hey, Joe. I'm like, hey, Doc, how's it going? So I got to reconnect with one of my teachers on a different level as we're doing this project. And he and I discussed decompression theory and underwater stuff. But, Mike had the distinction of being the only astronaut ever on the cover of Surfer magazine. So I was like, that's my man.
The number of astronaut and diver connections in the world that there are is really profound, actually. It's really interesting to see how astronauts help train underwater, and the neutral buoyancy lab for NASA is one of the coolest things on planet Earth, so you could all check it out when you're done the broadcast. So great question.
And by the way, in case anybody's listening, aquanauts make the best astronauts. Unquestionably. You learn body control, you learn dynamics, you learn positioning. Yeah.
I've been harping this all Oceans Week, but for our students today, when you are 8 years old, you can do PADI Bubble Maker, which is the first path to becoming a scuba diver. At 10, you can get open water, which is what I have. And it's like black magic. 70% of the world is now open to you if you have the power of scuba diving. And so I couldn't encourage our classes enough. You can end up like Dr. Dituri. Mr. Shadid's class, I want to get at as many questions as possible. Let's head to you guys, 6, 7, 8. Hey.
I have 2 questions actually. How long do you plan to stay in the kite house thing that's on the bottom of the ocean, or not the ocean, but like the lake. And wouldn't you get the bends due to nitrogen gas building up in your bloodstream?
Yeah, those are both great and valid questions. So I have been down here. This is my 98th day. I plan to be here for 100 days, and I have worked the whole mathematic equation to talk about how tissues absorb gas and how they off gas. So that whole decompression thing is basically, it's what I do. It's 16 partial differential equations that all string together. So we've done that math backwards and forwards, and I've calculated that I have to decompress for 3 hours. In an abundance of caution, I have to decompress for a period of 3 hours on pure oxygen before I come to the surface, and that's what I intend to do. So what if I get decompression sickness? We are going to, remember, you see me, and I just want to be clear about this. You see one person here. There are 10 medical doctors that are my friends that are involved in this experiment. There are 2 psychologists, there's 1 psychiatrist, and we are walking down the road with almost 100 total people. The mission director, the people at Marine Resources Developmental Foundation, the people at Jules Undersea Lodge, the creator of this entire thing, Jan Koblik. I mean, so there are lots of people involved here. I just get to be the mouthpiece. I get to speak with you. So there is no I in this team, but there are many, many people involved in this. So we are working together towards that goal. And in an abundance of caution, we do not want to have anything bad come out of this. So we're going to make sure we don't get bent and come to the surface. And I've worked with the medical team and done all the math. And I had that very same discussion with Dr. Mike Gernhardt, who, like I said, was my teacher and an astronaut that worked out all of the astronaut decompression stuff to get into the U.S. spacesuit, because they get decompression sickness going in space too.
I love this question, and I really want to harp on for our students. Now, Dr. Dituri, of course, is in a very special circumstance at the Jules Undersea Lodge, but every scientist, every expedition leader will tell you that the key to this is collaboration. No one knows everything. Everyone relies on a team, and the more you prepare with that team, the less likely you are to run into difficulties, and the more likely you are to succeed. This is a universal in expedition world, and it's a universal in pretty much anything you're likely to enter into in life. So I'm really, really glad we got that message. Thank you for that. Ms. Rahim's class, now you guys have been sharing so many questions on chat and stuff. I don't know if you're going to share the same one live, but I'll come to you, and whatever you want to tell us, go for it. Hey.
Hi. So this is Bianca, but before she asked, because we're in the Annapolis area, we just wanted to know if you went to the Naval Academy.
No, I did not. I'm what they call a Mustang. In other words, I enlisted in the Navy and worked my way up through the ranks and became an officer after 10 years of being enlisted.
Gotcha.
And I did 38 years total.
All right. Well, this is Bianca. She has a great question for you.
How do scientists discover a new species if the pressure underwater can crush you like a tin can?
So the pressure underwater cannot crush you because you are made of what? Mostly water, right? So water is an incompressible thing. So the air spaces that are in your body are what we call compliant. That means I am breathing the air that is compressed, and it's filling up the lung spaces, filling up the sinuses, filling up the tympanic membrane in the ears, the eustachian tube. So any of those spaces with air ability to get in them, they are compliant, and we can allow the air into them. So technically humans can go very, very, very deep. Human tolerance is 2,265 feet, I think is the exact depth. I don't know for sure. That used to be the record. The French had it. But how do we find new species? Like this. So do you see that? Do you see those things holding on to the side? I had a microbiologist named Dr. Hunter Hines who came down here and spent 5 days with me, lecturing, doing stuff with his class, and going around. He took dirt from the sea floor right outside this habitat and looked at it under a microscope. So what did he do? He looked where nobody had ever looked before for something that nobody had ever seen before. And he found a new species to science. This is a single-celled psyllid, or something with cilia in it, a single-celled organism that is potentially new to science. Now, mind you, that is an entire long discussion to have, and it may not be found out for another 5 or 10 years, but that, and Dr. Shirley Pompone was down here doing sponge research, and she said, hey, that looks like a new sponge. I'm going to collect that sponge, and I'm going to bring it back. That's 2 new species on this 100-day expedition, or at least we think maybe.
Yep.
But listen, in 4.5 billion years of genomic wisdom, right? That's how long the planet's been around. We opine that there are about 20 million species. So far, we found about 5 million of those. So we are really far behind the power curve. And let me tell you a quick story. I went to, when I retired from the Navy, got a call from a guy named James Cameron or his people. And I said, yeah, Jim Cameron wants you to come out to his house. I said, James Cameron wants me to come to his house. Yeah, sure, whatever. Send me a ticket. So they sent me a ticket. I go out there, and now where I'm walking James Cameron's dog on the beach. We're talking about the expedition, talking about what he found when he went to the bottom of the Marianas Trench. He got down there and he found a sea lice. And a sea lice are usually really small in the state of Florida. They're teeny. Well, at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, they are 11 inches big. He recovered it, pulled a DNA sample from it. And as I'm reviewing the DNA sample, it appears that this is a partial cure for Alzheimer's. Let me say that a different way. There was a partial cure for a disease that afflicts humanity existing at the bottom of the Marianas Trench, and we never knew about it because we didn't find it. So if you look where you've always looked, you will find what you have always found. So we need to go find everything in the ocean. So that was why on December 24th, when I was writing that paper, because for whatever reason, James Cameron wanted to do it on the 25th, or his people wanted to do on the Christmas, of 2012, right? I sat back in my office on my desk. I put my leg up on my desk and I said, everything we need is here. We have the yin, we have the yang, we have the dark, we have the light, we have the disease, we have the cure. We just have to go find it. I said, we have to live in the ocean. Everybody's like, you have lost your mind. And I'm like, no. It's logical. Hold on, I can show you on a chart how it works. But when you think about it like that, everything is out there. You have that disease. You absolutely have that cure somewhere.
I love when we get the question about new species. Whenever we talk to tropical researchers or anyone associated with the ocean, if you look, you find new species. We had a biologist on not too long ago. She's at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. They asked her, how many new species have you found? She's like, I don't actually know. Like, it's just too many to actually count. I don't remember. They're not on two hands anymore because every time we look, we find new things, which is astonishing. Dr. Dituri, time flies when you're having fun. We've got time for 4 more questions, so I'm going to go to our live. I know. I got to keep Oceans Week rolling. We got some other cool people right after. Not as cool as you necessarily. We won't tell that. But I'm going to head to all our live classes. We'll take one from YouTube, and then I will encourage all our classes. Check out Project Neptune if you want to learn more about the amazing expedition. If you want to follow up with us, you have our email at exploringbytheseatofyourpants. We'll absolutely try and get more questions to Dr. Dituri and their teams. We follow up with this and keep the learning going, or you can go high-five them at the window if you're really keen. But
some of this can be seen on Dr. Deep Sea. So look up Dr. Deep Sea YouTube channel and Dr. Deep Sea on Instagram and all via Twitter and all that.
I'm gonna have it in the chat by the end of this broadcast. You can be assured. Mr. Lalonde's class, we're heading to Canada. Miss Wells, Farmington, and I'm gonna take one more from YouTube in a minute. But come on in, Canada. Hey.
Wait. So since you met lots of people underwater, how do you enter and leave the capsule without water entering the capsule the lounge?
Interesting question. If you'll come with me, I'll show you real quick. So what I do is I enter into and out of what we call a moon pool. So this is a moon pool. That right there is the water. So we get dive gear on and we go ahead and go down and come out of there. But what we do is we pressurize the habitat that we are in right now so that the water doesn't come back in. That is a really great question.
We've had that on YouTube as well, so I'm really glad we got that one. Thanks for the tour as well. We've even got people asking if they could see the pool too. So we just covered all the questions in one go. DrDeepSea.com. I'll put that in our YouTube chat for everybody as well. Miss Wells, I'm coming to you. I'll take one from Miss Craig on YouTube, and then Farmington. We're going to wrap up with you guys in a minute. Port of Basque, welcome back.
What type of fish do you see while you're in the ocean?
Oh, man, have I seen some cool fish. If you give me 30 seconds, I will get to the Neptune mission part. And first of all, first things first, I saw that true story mermaid hanging right out in my moon pool. That's my moon pool. So that was what happened for sure. And then those are pictures of fish on the top of my habitat. So there are many, many, many fish. And I saw a manatee. I saw a squid. Importantly, I saw that seahorse. That is the workhorse of the ocean right there, guys and girls. And you remember the moon pool that I just showed you seconds ago, right? That is a shark laying in the bottom of my moon pool. So that's basically a shark laying on my front doorstep, just hanging out, right? So that's the kind of stuff I see down here on a regular basis. How cool.
That's pretty cool. Hard to beat a shark on your doorstep. That's a new one for us at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants in 3,000 broadcasts. So thank you for that. YouTube, Miss Cray's class. I love this question from our 2-3s because I know this applies to astronauts. When you come back to the surface, do you need to do anything specific to prepare your body before you get up there?
Oh, yeah. So like I said, in an abundance of caution, we're doing a bit of oxygen decompression, and we need to do that breathing of oxygen to let all of that inert gas come out. But more importantly, I'm in an isolated, confined, extreme environment. And when you're in this environment, you need to like readapt to seeing tons of people, to not having your own way. Like this is kind of sort of the kingdom of Joe. I've been down here for 100 days and this is kind of sort of my place. I have to leave that and go back to the real world. So it's like socially readjusting. So I actually, this morning, I was working with a team of psychologists to talk about my reintegration strategy, which is definitely going to be transformative for me. I mean, when you get to be down here alone and you think and you're alone with your thoughts about what's going on in the world and life in general, it's a real hard thing to come back and integrate back into society. So yeah, it's going to be a difficult thing to do. And there's a lot of psychological prep.
Fascinating. Thank you for that. And great question, Ms. Cray's class. I will note before I bring in Ms. Dillons, if you want to check out more on Project Neptune, I've been bringing this up all day. All our classes will get this link if you registered. Jules Undersea Lodge is at jul.com, the easiest URL of anyone we've ever worked with. And if you want to check out more about our Oceans Week partners, again, explorers.org, their entire World Oceans Week ceremony and celebrations are below. And of course, all of this is going to be on YouTube. So if you want to check out this program, share it with friends and family. We hope you do. It'll be on our channel there. Ms. Dillon's class, come in for one final question, and then classes, I'm going to have you all come in and say a big thank you and farewell in a minute, so I'm really excited for your energy. But, Ms. Dillon, hey.
Hi. What is the coolest animal that you've ever, coolest experience of your whole career?
Ooh, no pressure.
Coolest experience of my own career. Wow. I'm going to say, honestly, that when I got hit by a car, I got my own traumatic brain injury, and I learned the right way to fix traumatic brain injury. Over my career, I figured this out, and we have sort of a cookbook answer. When people come out of my program, the coolest experience is having their wife or husband come to me and just throw their arms around me and say, "Thank you for giving me my kid back. Thank you for giving me my husband back. Thank you for giving me my wife back," or "Thank you for giving me my daddy back," right? When the kid grabs you, that's it. It's over, right? Like, I don't care how much of a you are, you know, there's a bunch of low-flying sandstorm that goes through your eyes, and, you know, but it's compelling to thank you. That's a great memory for me, because really, if you can change somebody's life, you've won, right? So what else is there to do in this world, right?
That is a beautiful and totally unique answer in our history. So thank you so much for that. I could honestly talk to you all day. This has been one of my favorite programs I've ever done, and I've hosted 1,500 of these. So that's a high bar to cross. Dr. Dituri, the entire team at the Project Neptune 100 Quest, kudos on all your amazing work to educate the public, do some great science and more. If anyone wants to follow up, please do be in touch. And as you may know, what we do to wrap up every broadcast, I'm going to bring in all our classes to say a big thank you and farewell. Ms. Rahim's class, Mr. Lalonde's class, Mr. Shadow's class.
Thank you.